Hello, dirt people. Or really, I should call you stardust people. You do know that we are comprised of the same elements that are the stars. That is our connection. That's who we are. The psalmist asks the right question for us this morning in Psalm 8. When we look to the heavens, when we see the works of God, the fingerprints of God on everything, the moon and the stars that they have been established, what are human beings? That God will be mindful of us. Mortals, that God would even care for us. Well, we do have some of the answer to that. Yes, indeed, we are made of the very same building materials of the stars and the moons. We have something in common with each star. And so we begin to see this web that God has created in the connection of all life, far and near. We are stars. Brothers and sisters stars. If you never thought you were going to get a star in Hollywood, I'd give it to you now, your very own star. For it is the way that we know that we are a part of the whole of what God has done. For everything we can see and cannot see in the universe is connected. We form one huge ecosystem, we call it, or the universe. This earth and each of us belong to God, as well as we belong to one another. That's our Holy Communion. As Henry David Thoreau wrote, heaven is under our feet, as well as above our heads. How many of you in this room think that oxygen might be important in your life? Well, at least a couple of you do. Good. Well, we need that to understand the beginning of this connection to all life and what it means about caring for the earth. We know that our bodies are also 2/3 water, so we are these water, stardust, and oxygen creations. For what is water but hydrogen and more oxygen? And as we may have learned in science class, oxygen actually is a limited element in the Earth's atmosphere. In other words, we can run out of it unless we have that photosynthetic process that's always going on within the living organisms, plants and trees and water, which use the energy of the sunlight to create what? Oxygen. So you need sunlight unblocked, you need vegetation that is strong and alive, and you need water that is healthy, or else what? No oxygen. Exactly. So we get the equation, don't we? Do we get the sacred connection? Do we hear then our holy obligation? When we look at the marvelous scale and grandeur of creation, it is almost unimaginable to comprehend. The billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars. Indeed, we might wonder, what in the world are we here for in the midst of this vast and majestic creation? Well, God does have a purpose for it. We hear it in Genesis. We are called to take care of this earth. Yes, it is filled with all God's good gifts to sustain us, but there is a balance we must maintain. If anybody ever asks me if I believe in miracles, I always say yes, the earth is a miracle in part. It is the only planet that can sustain life. Except I understand the last 2 weeks we've had 2 more planets that indeed may be able to sustain life. They are only 1,200 years away. So do we have any volunteers to go out there and check on those planets to make sure? Maybe we could put our resources, our energy, our imagination, and our love to care for this third rock from the sun. But the more we've learned about the miraculous planet, the more the church has come to understand our holy task, our godly role to be stewards of the earth. to care for the spinning orb of diverse and delicate matter, where all living things are dependent upon one another. But the only difference in being a human being is that we carry the power of oversight, the power of life and death over this tiny corner of God's creation. Yes, God gave us charge of the earth and its limited resources, calling us to have dominion, to till and to keep, utilizing the earth for the needs of all, but also for keeping, which I hear as a commandment to preserve the goodness of the earth, for it is all for everyone, each inhabitant of the earth. But it's also for the preservation for those children that will inherit the earth once we are gone. We have struggled, I believe, in the church over the centuries on how we are to see ourselves in connection with creation, and particularly how we translated that understanding of the words, have dominion over the earth. For centuries, the church has been party to the notion that somehow the earth was an inexhaustible resource, that we could take and use as much as we want. The more, the merrier. It's there for the taking. Cut and dig and mine and dump and spill and waste as much as you like, because there's more than enough to go on for us. But we know this is a wrong interpretation of this verse in Genesis. You do realize that for half of the life of the Christian church, that we believed that the earth was the center of the universe, and that the sun evolved above that dome as we read in Genesis. That's the picture that's drawn there. And when this strange guy Copernicus, and followed by Galileo, came along and said, wait a minute, from what we observe, the earth is not at the center of the solar system. The sun is. The heliocentric understanding of the universe. Well, the church spoke up out of scriptures, of course, and said that's not true. So they were called heretics. In fact, Galileo was under church arrest for the last years of his life. And so we are still somehow living under those centuries of understanding that somehow we are, as human beings, or even as earth beings, are at the center of the universe. But we have to begin to see that we are at the center. The sun is at the center. And that's not only scientific, that's theological. Because we tend to put ourselves at the center and God somewhere out there, instead of saying God is to be the center of all things, and we evolve and grow in our relationship of orbiting around God as well. I'm like everybody else, loves to go watch a sunset or to see a sunrise. But we know that's not what's really going on, don't we? The sun isn't going anywhere. We're the ones that are moving. So we should go and watch Earth rotation. That doesn't sound as exciting, or the sun isn't romantic, I know. But again, if we think that the sun is setting, again, that looks like we're at the center and the sun just goes away from us. It's us that are moving, and we still need to move to new places in wonder with our God. I think the other theological problem we have, particularly from scriptures, is the use of the word world. In the English translation of the Bible, we use that word world for so many different things. And we use it in reference to, of course, all of the cruelty and injustices, the violence and the hate that human beings inflict on each other. We say it's the ways of the world. But also we hear in scriptures, of course, those references to some otherworldly place beyond this place, or the apocalyptic writings about the end of the earth and something entirely new taking place. And so we've mistakenly inferred that somehow we can do anything we want to the earth. It's expendable. God really doesn't need this place anymore. But that's not true. There's other images that lead us, I think, into a better place in Scripture. For Jesus teaches us this world, this place, is where God's kingdom is coming, on earth as it is in heaven. That's what we pray. This is the place. This is God's sacred place. the earth, you and I, belong to God. I don't know about you, but when I went to camp, all the campers' parents had to put our names in the shirts and the pants and underwear and everything else to make sure that maybe our clothes would get home with us at the end of the week. Or if you look in your clothes right now, every one of us has a label that says how you're supposed to take care of that garment. So what we need is we need labels. Maybe on our chest that says this belongs to God, handled with care. Of course, it has to be in reverse so that we're looking in the mirror in the morning we can read it right. Or we also need to have those kind of labels on the earth and the trees and the flowers, and even on the invisible, the oxygen that we can't see, labels that says this belongs to God, handled with extreme care. The greatest sin is the way we interfere with or destroy the miracle. God's sacred interdependency in the holy mixture of all the interconnected elements of this good creation. Well, the Bible is nothing if it doesn't lead us to a new place and a better understanding of how we are to live rightly with God and with each other, with strangers and with living creatures, particularly the most vulnerable and marginalized among us. Wise stewardship of the earth is all about what it means to love your neighbors, not only in this community, but on the other side of the earth this morning, where what we do and what they do has an impact on us as we are them. As Easter people, we believe that change is possible for the good. In fact, we believe that anything that restores holiness and healing to all of life is possible in our God. For God seeks to change our minds through the way that we behave, to bring life out of death. So as stewards, we are to be very careful with the way we treat the earth and working towards the restoration to God's good earth, over against the ways of our overconsumption, our waste, or even our blindness to the truth, to who all of this belongs to. The ways that we are wasting and are slowly killing the environment. Literally, physically, bodily, we're sucking the oxygen out of the room. And then when that happens, we know what happens. We can no longer breathe. Sunlight, vegetation, water, equal oxygen, equal life. The stewardship of God's good creation is really that simple. On the insert that is in the order of worship this morning, as I said earlier, David brought together some resources of ways to think about just simply picking one thing from that list. Maybe you're already doing something to increase it another step. But take one step of taking some change in behavior in the way that we use or preserve the world around us, beginning in our own homes. We do and are called to make a difference. That's what God's people are here for. This morning, the message, if you would flip your page to the opposite side for the pictures, I'm going to close with a visual exercise. And I want you to look at the pictures as I lead us through another reading of Psalm 23, about awareness of our balance and the connectedness of all creation. Maybe to hear the psalm in pictures. As you look at the pictures, I will read them. The Lord is the shepherd of the earth. And because of that, all that we need is there. All we have needed has been provided so that we can shepherd the earth. He makes us lie down in green pastures. Go ahead. Lie down in that grass. Wallow in the grass. Move your legs and your arms in the grass and breathe. He leads us beside still waters. Hear the waters gently speaking to us. Fresh, refreshing, oxygenated water. This is what restores our souls. Yes, she will right our wrongs, and she will lead us in paths of good things. So even though we walk through dark and dreary shadow valleys and lands, there is nothing that can shake us. He won't forsake us. We are always in her hands. She sets a table of bounty before us in the presence of all that destroys the earth, choking the waters to death with chemicals that produce algae, that rob life. The plumes of carbon dioxide that are robbing the air of light and life. Changing weather patterns and conditions around the globe. But then she comes to anoint our heads with oil, the oil of commissioning to make a difference, to make one conscious change in our footprint upon the earth today. Commissioning us to share from our cups clean water for generations yet unborn. For we surely know that God's goodness and justice, kindness and generosity will follow us all the days of our lives. For we are only temporary guests who get to live in this abundant house, the earth, that belongs to God. In this community, as a community that belongs to God, today and forever. Amen.